Hey everybody, Josh here with May Handmade. Um, I just wanted to take a minute today and just go over my setup, how I made it, why I made it the way I did, and since I got my laser, which products I've gotten and tried, and what works, what doesn't work. I'll show you stuff that I mostly use, and some of the stuff I didn't like, I'll let you know why, and why I didn't use it anymore after that. Maybe it's worth trying to you. You want to pick some of this stuff up and try it. I'll link everything in the description that I talk about in this video. That way you have a direct link. You could just go to exactly the product that I got and you can try it if you're interested. Okay, let's start with the table. So the table, basically I got the laser. I wasn't real sure where I wanted it. It needed to be well ventilated, definitely not in the house. I've got it here in my garage. That way I can open the garage door, turn on a fan, and blow some of the smell out of here, all the chemicals that are coming off. I built it out of scrap wood. I had some wood laying around, some 3/4 inch plywood from a deer blind that I built, and then some 2x4s and some old paint. So I built this thing out of some scrap. I made one shelf on it so I can put materials on. The top of it is 2 foot by 4 foot. Here, 2 foot by 4 foot long. The height on this thing, 37.5 inches tall. I put some feet on there so I could level it out in the floor no matter where it sits. And with this setup, exactly half the table gets used by the laser. So the other half is your working space for computer, all your tools, your goggles, everything else. It fits just fine on here. You got room to write. It works good. So with no extension, 2 foot by 4 foot table works good. Mounted a power strip to it, and I dropped the power from the ceiling so that I can walk all the way around my table and I can get to every side of it and adjust my project if needed, or inspect, make sure everything's working. So that was my preference. Some people put it up against the wall. What I wanted was what is here. So that's the table. I printed these locators off of Thingiverse. I found the file. I printed 2 of them with my 3D printer. One for each corner is sufficient. You don't need 4, just need 2. The machine is pretty solid and square itself. You don't have to have 4. If you want 4, that's your preference. Once they're in the locators, I use the on Thingiverse. There's also a file comes with that where you can download, and it has a center with your X and Y locations, and you can use it however you like. It helps you square up projects, helps you line things up. It's good to have. Now the laser came with 2 risers for each corner, so that gets you high enough to do most tumblers and cups. But I found myself doing tumblers with mug handles and 40-ounce tumblers with mug handles and stuff like that, and you end up having to take the rotary tool. When you use the RA2, it's too close to the table. So when you use the RA2, I found myself using blocks of wood and raising it up off of the table so that I can have room for the handle, and using a block of wood, kind of like this, taping it to the other side where the handle is not, so that it's offsetting the weight of the handle so that it balances the weight and counterweights it on the rotary tool, so it doesn't, the weight of gravity doesn't pull it and make it mess up your engrave or your setup. So having this in reverse on the back side of the RA2, You put some weights on here when you set it up so it doesn't offset. You usually use this to prop up the back of your cup so it doesn't try to fall off of there. Give it all the support it needs. I will be doing a video with a mug handle tumbler or a mug or something like that so that I can show you all my setup with the RA2 when I use it and how I set it up in the program. But these are things I keep around: the wood blocks, some weights to use. These are just sockets and a brake piston from a caliper from a car. So these are things I keep around. But when you use this setup with the blocks of wood, you're not high enough to focus on that cup. So in that case, I purchased another set of 8 extensions so that I can go 4 high on each corner. That allows me to do bigger cups, taller projects, the half-gallon water jugs. I've done those, the stainless big water jugs, and it works good. Not bad to have. They're not that expensive. They are on Amazon. I will link them in the description. Of course, you've got your level. Always level everything. Always focus everything. Make sure that it's all in focus. You're good. If it's not in focus, it may not burn how you think it's going to burn. And if it's not level, you're going to get a burn that tapers off, and it's going to have good areas and bad areas, and it may not be fixable at the end of the day. So make sure it's level. Check it twice. Make sure you're in focus every time before you hit the start button. These glasses are really good. They came with the laser. They're in the correct focal range for the laser to block out that light. When you buy goggles or glasses, protective glasses for lasers, make sure that you're buying them in the right wavelength. So if you buy the right wavelength, it will block the light that's getting produced by the laser. So this laser, I think, is around 450 nanometers in wavelength. So the ones I got, I got 2 sets of additional glasses because I have kids. I have my wife. They come and watch sometimes. And I have extra pair of glasses for anybody besides me that comes in. And these actually block better light than the ones that came with the lasers. So worth having extra glasses. Flexible measuring tape. This is a must-have when you're doing cups, when you're sizing projects, and you need to get around a curved surface or a round surface and get an accurate measurement and see how big your project's going to be, how it's going to turn out. It's good to know and set up with that. So I keep isopropyl alcohol out here whenever I do wood projects. That's mainly when I use it. So when I burn wood, I'll do the wood and it'll leave soot on top sometimes. You know, you'll have a little bit of soot, like this soot on the side. If you use alcohol with a paper towel and just lightly wipe that, it takes the soot right off. So if you don't have air assist, which I don't seem the need for air assist. I didn't put it on my system because I use a fan and it pushes air across my table and it gets on one side of the engrave or the cut. And then I just use alcohol and just wipe it lightly and it takes it right off without hurting the wood. So alcohol is good to have. Now this one, Cermark, expensive product. I think this can was $110 on Amazon. You know, for the full size can. I've done multiple projects with this and it still feels full. So make sure you store it on its side. This is the black marking spray, and I've never had a project fail with this. So it's very good turnout with this. It comes out really consistent. There's no specks or missing pieces in it with glass, with stainless, with chrome. It works on a lot of things, and I haven't had it go bad on me. So it's a good product. It's expensive, but if you're doing it for customers, you just add a few dollars here and there, and it covers the cost of itself. But the product that it gives, I haven't found anything that will match that. Everything is inconsistent at best. when it comes to marking on glass and chrome. So this is dry Moly lube. I got this because other guys were using it to etch glass, and I tried it. It did not work out well for me. I've never tried it again since because I went to the Cermark, because I don't like wasting cups and glasses and products that I have to buy out of pocket, because it's just wasting money. So if I'm spending a lot of money trying to get this product to work, I might as well have just bought a better product that's going to work every time. So I bought this dry Moly lube from recommendations from other laser users that I saw on YouTube, and it didn't work well for me. So I have a full can. I may not ever use it, but here it sits on my shelf. Now I've got cold galvanizing compound. This, along with the Moly, same thing. This was recommended by other users, and I got it, tried it. The results were inconsistent, so I decided to not use it anymore and find an alternative. And with both of these, since they're spray paints or spray lubricants, they're very hard to clean off of projects. So you're using a customer's cup or glass or something that they're going to drink out of, and you're spraying it with chemicals, and you have to try and clean it all off of there to get the right result. So I stopped using this just because it was inconsistent. And in place of that, I went to Hobby Lobby and I got Tempura Paint. I mean, this is a whole 32-ounce jug here. And I think it was about $5 that I got this from Hobby Lobby. And this I've used several times, and you can't even tell that I've used it. And just brush it on. I don't spray it on. I just brush it on, and it works just fine. Put it on nice and heavy. It gives a good white engrave. It'll be like a frosted engrave look, but it's consistent. It turns out good every time. So definitely Tempura Paint is a good thing to have for glass works like that. I got this transfer tape because I was doing some wood projects, some cutting and making gifts for family members and stuff. And I wanted to try it out because a lot of people use it to eliminate soot and have cleaner cuts without air assist and stuff like that. So I bought this 12-inch by 300 feet. So this is a big roll. I don't remember how much it was. I'll tag that in the description. It didn't work as well as I thought it would. The laser, whether this is too thick or something, but it didn't have a good time cutting through this and the wood. So I had a lot of stuff I had to redo. So I stopped using the transfer tape. And like I mentioned earlier, the alcohol, it takes care of any soot that's left on wood surfaces from cutting or engraving, and it does not hurt the wood. So this, collecting dust. Now, if you're going to be cutting anything flat, wood, anything you can burn through, you got to have the honeycomb, because you're going to ruin your table if you don't. This comes with a nice aluminum backing that goes underneath it to prevent anything from reaching your table and hurting your table or work surface. These little rubber things are kind of a joke. They just fall off, but I keep putting them back on. These magnets that come with it, they're a little tall. You have to avoid them because your shield will hit them if it comes close, and it could knock your project loose. You don't want your project moving around when you're in the middle of cutting a piece of wood or something like that. So if you're interested in smaller magnets, I've seen some guys get some quarter size, really thin magnets that work really well. These I've been making do with. I have not gotten any replacement magnets. Most of my projects are around the 1 foot by 1 foot range, so they fit within here where I can use the edges of them without interfering with the project. So the honeycomb tool, or the honeycomb, is a must-have if you're going to be working flat with woods. Cutting paper. My wife is a teacher. She does paper projects all the time to put up on walls and hallways. And I cut them right here on the laser. So any construction paper, printer paper, any color, you can put it in here. You can cut it really fast. Nice patterns, any wording, stuff like that. It's easy to do. So yeah, you can cut any paper, cardboard, stuff like that. But use the honeycomb. That's going to be a must-have. Masking tape. I just use this here and there. I use it to tape my pieces of wood or offset weight to my mugs for the handle weight. I'll tape those on with masking tape, and the way I do it is I put it across the top this way so that when it wraps to your mug, it's not interfering with your projects. You know, if you're doing a front and back or just a front. Sometimes with the tape, I'll just take a little piece. And when I do two-sided tumblers or mugs, I do one side, and then I mark the center, and I rotate it, and I reframe it and set it up for the other side. Because I've had where I calculate the distance, and I use laser box still, because I've had this for about 1.5 years, and that's all there was when I got it, and that's what I've been using, and I haven't had any issues with laser box. So a lot of people have issues, and they move on to laser burn or the Creative Space, the new one that they have out from XTOOL. I use LaserBox, and it continues to work for me. If you have a different preference, it's just software. You know, the laser is going to do what it does. Software just gives it the controls. So I use tape. I mark one side of the tumbler, roll it over. I do the other side of the tumbler or cup, mug, whichever project you're doing, glass. It's easy just to rotate it, make sure it frames up good 180 from the other design, and you know how far it is away and how it interprets that to the laser. I tried it one time by setting it up all as one, and it ended up that when it was going from one design and traveling to the next, it shifted on the rotary and it got messed up. So since then, I avoid doing that altogether, and I just do one design at a time. That way I have more control over it, because the laser, I mean, to put it simply, it's a dumb laser. It's not a smart laser. It has no location. It's basically just stepper motors running on steps, and that's it. So there's no location, anything on here. So you cannot say, hey, go here, go there, because it doesn't know. It knows how many steps to that point from where it is currently, but it doesn't locate at all. So I like it in that way because it does what I want it to do without thinking. You have to know that and compensate where you need to. So tools like this, I've got ruler, stiff ruler, so I can take measurements of projects. It's good to have a lot of measuring tools. I've got other rulers here. I've got a digital caliper in case you need to measure how big something's going to be. I do some pens for people, like stainless pens, and I put the Cermark on there, and I etch names on there for doctors, things like that, nurses. I use the caliper to size my text, you know, to see how it's going to turn out on the pen, see how big the pen is in diameter, things like that. A mask, if you're cutting something with a lot of odor, make sure you've got a mask, something to protect yourself. Along with the goggles, you've got to make sure that you're breathing in clean air. So whether you have this type of mask or a respirator, I have one that's got filters on it I use for painting. Either one is going to protect you better than nothing. So make sure you have some kind of protection. When I'm doing tumblers, doing cleanup, you know, the tumblers, there's always soot on the cup. So they never come off perfect. One of my next videos, I'm going to go over how they come off and how the process afterwards looks for me, and how much work I spend cleaning the cups sometimes, because the burns are not the same per color or brand of cup. So in that cleanup process, I got these Melamine Sponges. They're just like Magic Eraser, but these are cheaper. I get them on Amazon. It's a big bag, 48 pack. You can see I need to order some more, but running low on that. But those work really well for scrubbing and not damaging any powder coat or any of the surfaces, and it just basically gives it just enough scrubbing and abrasiveness to knock that soot off of there. While I'm doing that with scrubbing, this is what I use to clean. So it's Barkeeper's Friend, removes more. It's a foaming spray. I get it from Home Depot. It's about $3 to $4 most of the time, and they have it on the shelf. I get 2 to 3 bottles at a time. I'll try to link that in the description. It may be a Home Depot link. We'll see what I can find online. But spray this on the cup. After you engrave it, it's got soot, residue, whatever. I have a sink in my garage. I spray it on there. I let it sit in there in the sink for, I don't know, about 20 to 30 seconds. And then I'll kind of rub over it pretty good with the melamine sponge, and then spray it again and let it sit for about the same amount of time, and then scrub it really good and scrub it hard. And then by that time, it's done. It's pretty shiny. I've gotten all the soot off. That's going to come off, and you can continue rubbing on it to get any more of, if you have discoloration from burning too hot or something like that, and it has lines in it, you can polish that out. So I'll post a video of a screw up, and I will overburn something, and I will show you how to get it nice and shiny using this to clean the soot off and polish most of it, and then using some Mother's Mag wheel polish to get the rest of it off. So you can use that to polish stainless. So getting a terry cloth towel, or even with your finger, just rubbing that polish, the Mother's Mag wheel polish paste, onto the engraved area, and just rub that in there, and then polish it off with a towel. It sometimes takes some work, but it's salvageable. I've saved a lot of cups like that and delivered them, and everybody was happy. The tumblers that I get, I usually get them on Amazon. I get them between quantities of 6 and 12, sometimes 16. And sometimes I get them for $5 a mug or cup. And sometimes the highest I see is about $8 each cup. So shop around, find out what's best for you. The price that I charge for tumblers, I'm still making money off of it. I'm not in this to get rich. It's basically a hobby for me that I do gifts and things for people that request it. I put a post on Marketplace, and I get random requests here and there. Especially around Christmas time, I do quite a few tumblers. Sometimes 20 tumblers at a time. Sometimes it's 1 or 2. So that stuff's fun to me. It's learning. It's getting to know your tools, making some money with it. It pays for itself. I think when I bought this, I've about tripled what I paid for it in profits from doing tumblers. So the main business I see is tumblers, gifts and things like that, people wanting to give them away. I've made triple the amount I paid for the laser in profit back on just tumblers. So there's a lot of money to be had there if you're trying to make money with it. This is just a hobby for me. So a lot of the stuff I do is for coworkers, for friends, for family, neighbors. I just give stuff away all the time and help people out. If they want their name on a cup, I just give it to them. So I don't mind giving them a gift, and that in itself is advertising for your work. So you are giving them a gift, but they take it and show it to their friends or family, and they may say, "Where did you get that? I want one." And when they come, they could buy one. So you don't have to continue giving them away for free. Use that as like a marketing device for you. Give some away. Get your name out there with some people, friends, family, and they'll do the advertising for you with their hand just drinking their drink. So that's good advertising if you're trying to get a business going with it. So one thing I did do, since I have my kids and my wife coming in sometimes into the garage door's closed, they're in the house, I'm out here working, doing a project, or experimenting with the laser, cutting something, engraving, whatever it might be. These glasses I leave hanging inside the garage door. I put some hooks there, and these have ropes on them. They hang in there, so right inside the door. I printed some brackets, and I made this on the laser and used a highlighter to make it yellow. But this was a trial. It didn't come out perfect, but it came out pretty good. I made this sign so that on the inside of the door, whenever I'm doing work, I can turn it around when I'm not working. I can turn it around and put it in the holder when I am working, so that anybody coming through that door, there's goggles right there. They put their glasses on and then they enter the room. So protecting the ones that you love. You've got people entering the space. They need to know that you're doing work there. There's a laser on. They need to use the protection. So it's been good for me. Everybody's been really good about seeing it and putting glasses on before they enter the space. And it protects everybody. So you don't have to be there to alert them and say, hey, put your glasses on. There's a sign there right in their face when they see the door, because I hang it on the door. And that tells them to put their glasses on. So think ahead. If you're in a space that's similar to this, in the same situation, make yourself a little sign. It's good practice on the laser. You can practice your engraving and your cutting. You can see that this piece of wood, this is a cut this on this laser. It's a 10 watt, and you can see that the wood is 8 millimeters thick. So 8 millimeter thick wood. I think I did this with 2 passes. I forgot the speed. It might have been like 3 millimeters per second at 100% power, but I did 2 passes, cut that out after I did the engrave, and you can make it out of thinner wood. I made it out of thick wood so it doesn't warp, and it's going to last a long time. So I'll have this sign, and that will protect people around me. So all of my wood projects, I glue them together with wood glue. I just use this Gorilla Glue, $4.99 at Hobby Lobby. Pretty good size container, 8 ounces. I use this for projects when I'm working with wood and making cabinets or anything with the house and gluing down things, and it works great. So as long as you put it on, put your project together correctly, put some weights on it, hold it together real tight or clamp it, and let it sit overnight and just leave it alone, you're going to be good. So the wood is going to stick together. I did a hummingbird project that was a gift that I think it was 13 layers, and painted some of the layers before I put it together, and then I glued it together. It came out great. The glue worked really good. It held all of the wood together. I used these thin sheets. These are 1.5 millimeter thick sheets of wood I get on Amazon. Um, I will post the link for these. These are great. Make sure that you store them in either a dry place or very flat, because these will warp. They're thin. Any kind of humidity gets to them, you're going to have warping. So if they're not stored flat, or if you have something right in the middle of them when they're stored and it's not on a hard surface, it's going to get bowed, and all of your projects that you're going to have with that, you're going to have issues with warped wood, and it's hard to cut or engrave on warped wood because you don't have a good flat surface. So your focus is in and out on that, and it causes it to not work the way you think it will work. So if you get thin wood like that, make sure you store it flat. I leave it in the bundle. I keep mine in the wrapper that it came in so that it's somewhat protected from humidity since it's in my garage. And I don't put anything on top of it. I make sure that it's flat. It's flat on top of this box that I put it on. And I haven't had any issues with warping. I've had it in a different location and they got warped, and I had a lot of waste. So I tried using them, but some of the projects got messed up. So word of advice, if you have any thin wood, it's going to be pretty sensitive to humidity, and you're going to want to store it in a flat spot, preferably a drier spot, maybe indoors or in a humidity controlled environment. So when you're doing tumblers and you're using the RA2, always do a test burn, because with the RA2, with laser box especially, I have not tried it in Creative Space or Lightburn. I think in Lightburn you can compensate a little better, but in Laserbox it's pretty difficult on setup for the RA2. So with the foam roller, you've got pretty easy setup. Everything comes out exactly how you want it in Laserbox. With the RA2, it's a whole lot more difficult because, see, you have a stepper motor that's running this small gear, and that is going to this big gear to turn the tumbler or cup or mug, whichever you've got. So that is a gear reduction. You see how big the pulley is compared to this drive pulley. So one step here is going to account for about a quarter of a step on this side because of the size of this pulley. So well, just a little bit is barely going to turn the mug instead of turning it that distance like it does here. So this is going to be your y-axis instead of being your y-axis this way. So in that axis, it has to be compensated in your design. So in your design, and you have to squish it in the width direction about 40%. So it's going to be 60% of the size, and it's going to look funny in your design, but frame it, test it, make sure it's right. You have to do some mirroring and flipping for the design to come out correct. So since all these things are there and play a role, what I do is I use some aluminum or metal tape. It's for ducting. Got an adhesive back. This is metal tape, so the laser will not go through it. So I use this and I put masking tape on top, and I use this panel a bunch of times. You can see that I've got some engraving still on it. And I put this on the cup, and I actually run the engrave, check the orientation and sizing to make sure that it's correct before I actually burn somebody's cup. That will save you a lot of time. It will save you money from buying replacement cups and things like that. So make sure that you do test burns. This foil tape, I've got, this is what the roll looks like. So I've got a whole roll. It's adhesive on the back. You can get this from Home Depot or home goods stores, and should be available there. I've had this on a long time. I don't remember where I got it. So use this metal tape to do test burns with masking tape on top. That will help you out, save you time, save you money. Always test. Make sure you verify your setup. You'll be good to go. Okay, so with that, I think I've gone over most of everything that I use here and showed you some tips and tricks and talked about some of the things that I do here and don't do anymore. That's going to wrap it up for today. If there's anything particular that you want to see engraved and how I do it or make it work, let me know in the comments. I'll do a video, whichever you like to see. I mean, I've got tumblers, I've got materials, I've got things that I can use to do videos to show you how I do it, and I can think of something to make. So let me know what you want to see. I'll make you a video just to show you that. So I do a good walkthrough, show you all the steps, explain the steps, try to get you to understand why I do what I do. So I'll help you in any way I can. Just let me know how I can help. Thank you for watching.